Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Barrens Chat podcast. I'm Sod, and with me today is my co-host Guck. This is a podcast about World of Warcraft by two guys who play it. For this episode, we're going to focus on our week in WoW, the World First race, and the potential Classic World First race. Guck, how'd this last week of progression go for you?
This last week was all right. We didn't get anything significant done. We essentially did a re-clear of Heroic. The re-clear was pretty impressive. We did 7 out of 8 Heroic in less than 2 hours, which for our group is pretty good. But we made nominal progress on Heroic Ajara, and nominal progress on Mythic Sivara. So we didn't really get anything done last week aside from the re-clear. I'm sure some people got some upgrades, but when you're a 2-day raid guild and you go a week without getting progress, it really hurts because you're already behind the 8 ball in the amount of time that you can raid. And you're just not really attracting a lot of raiders who are super serious about it because as a 2-day raid guild, that's something that people have chosen to do on a 2-day schedule. So it's not going to be super hardcore. Definitely not as hardcore as the 3 or 4 raid a week guilds. So we didn't get any prog last week. Kind of sucks. Not too many people are going to be super concerned about it because, again, we're a 2-day guild. But, we'll see what next week brings. We're hoping to go full Mythic. So the next 2 raids and beyond will be entirely Mythic. Heroic will only be an off-day thing from now on. But we'll see. I'm hoping people are more prepared and we get Sivara down, we get Behemoth down. Those 2 bosses should be free, but we're struggling right now. What about you?
So Tuesday night, we did 5 out of 8 Heroic. Wednesday night, we did 7 out of 8 normal. Sunday night, we went in and we finished normal, and then we killed Council, and then I thought we were going to wipe the rest of the night on Zakul. We were struggling with that 50% mark. I think people getting too many stacks and just learning the fight. And then we had one good pull, and then after that we killed it like 2 pulls later, and it was pretty easy. It's still a complicated fight that I don't fully understand, but he's down now. We didn't get a chance to pull Heroic Ashara, but I'm excited to see what she has to offer. And actually, our raid attendance is pretty big right now. We have almost 30 people showing up to each raid, so we'll see if the guild transitions into Mythic in a week or 2.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty good. That's a deep enough roster that, it's conceivable, but then you have to make sure you've got those people doing the right things. Yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys are going to end up doing when you do get to Mythic, because you guys aren't really, when you joined that guild, were they advertising, hey, we're going to raid Mythic?
No, so they are typically a Heroic raid guild. They've been doing Heroic since Wrath, but like Heroic as we know it today has really been taking place since like WoD, I think. So probably normal in Wrath up to Heroic nowadays, which is probably equivalent. And what they do for Mythic is if they have 20 people online that are all competent players that are capable of, pulling Mythic tier mechanics and DPS and HPS, then it seems like they'll push it. And I've had a good time so far. I did my first +10 as an Alliance. I've had a hard time trying to find Alliance groups because I don't really know anybody that plays Alliance doing keys, so I did that for the first time. There's definitely a lot of quality players, and I think they just raid on a more casual schedule. And I think if the attendance maintains that, they will likely pull Mythic. I think. I'm still kind of new to the guild, but that's the direction I would see it going.
Dang, dude. If Chow Bao ends up really playing in that guild, I might have to consider saying goodbye to the Horde in retail. I don't know. We're not gonna make any sort of jumps now, but we'll see. We'll have to wait a while and see.
Yeah, it's different. It's a very mature guild, which I'm not used to in WoW, because normally the guilds you join nowadays are those trade chat recruitment guilds, and you typically don't really get to I guess, filter out people as much when you do that because you're just focusing on numbers. Skilled is strictly applications, and people apply to it. And I think they have a good environment. It's way more mature than me, so I don't really share the sense of humor. But I'm an older guy, so I do get some of it, and I'm just having fun. There's a lot of good players in here, man. A lot of really good players in this guild that are far better than me. So I think it's really cool to be involved.
So we both made some prog, but clearly the progression that everyone cares about this week and last week was the world first race, which, now has finally come to a close. We are looking at who's racing for world second still.
I think Limit did get it. I'm pretty sure they did. It's on WoW Progress today, so they are A to B.
Okay. So, and then the rest of the guilds, we might see Pieces take third. We'll see a few guilds trickle in and take a Jara after maybe another wave of nerfs come in. But, Method clinches it again. Man, I think saw a lot of it. I personally believe that there was a big turning point at Zakul for Limit when they kind of took the lead. They were clearly the ones who developed Zakul's strategy. They got it through. And then they took about a 10% lead into Ajara, but Method, right after the nerf, I remember seeing towards the end, Limit was stuck around, 15, 13%, and while Method was already down to their 5% pulls, 1%, 0% wipes, and then it was just inevitable.
Yeah, and I think now when they were progressing below 50%, I still saw Limit using 3 healers. They had 2 Disc Priests and a Holy Paladin, whereas Method just strictly had the 2 Disc Priests. I mean, we're talking, that was a serious DPS race that they had going on there. And, they needed everybody to chip in. And they also needed everybody to chip in with off heals. Just the ability for these guys to play their classes. And, a lot of them play multiple classes at the highest level. It's incredible to watch. And I just want to give, as far as casting goes, Preach is unbelievable. He is the best world first caster out there. And I don't even think it's close. And I'm so happy that, I got to see him do the call on the first Ajara kill because his knowledge and his awareness and his ability to describe what's going on each pull is second to none. And he really does a great job, and I think Method has a huge advantage over that. That being said, I also think it's awesome that Limit streams their comms and you get to see how they approach bosses and their problem solving, and I think that is also really cool. So the Method stream and Limit Maximus or Maximum were the 2 streams that I really focused on, and I thought they both brought a lot. Pretty much if Preach wasn't casting, I really wasn't watching it. I was watching Max.
Right, yeah, because Limit was giving you the full extent of their comms. It was, it was clear. You were seeing progression rating at its purest form. That I thought was really impressive. I was really much more of a fan, like you said, of watching Limit's stream, Limit Maximum specifically, just for that purpose, to hear those comms and to see what it's like from a raid leading tank perspective. He's also tank and a Brewmaster, represent. I mean, that's kind of the meta shit. That's what it's been this entire patch. Not just the entire patch, the entire expansion. But, it's okay. Brewmasters are the guardian druids of Legion. We're going to stay on top for this expansion, and then they'll probably change our kit around for a 9.0, but we'll see. I was very pleasantly surprised to see the diversity in the final kill. That's one of the things that you'll notice that's been different from a lot of world first raids, especially in Legion. You would see a lot of class stacking in Legion, and in the Eternal Palace, we got to see a lot more diversity. There was a wider variety of classes and specs that got to see the field. And I remember hearing Method's raid leader mention that one of the things they wish they had was a better geared fire mage. They needed a fire mage who could just dump their burst entirely into those hulks as they spawned just to like get through that as quickly as possible. But they didn't have that. The high demand for diversity, I think, shows that Blizzard is going in a better direction for class balance. But we need to kind of maintain class balance with class identity, because we've lost a lot of class identity along the way. The balance seems to be in a better place, so let's kind of hope the devs switch their focus over to that class identity, because we need it.
Yeah, and we'll see how the rest of 8.2 goes and the Mythic Dungeon International. And Sko, I don't know if you saw this, he tweeted out a potential teaser for another World First race that will happen in Classic WoW, which would be insane, because that World First race, you're not even going to see anybody hit the raid until maybe the end of the first week, because Molten Core will be released when it's open, and everybody has to get 60 levels before they can set foot in there.
Yep. I'm interested in seeing what they plan on doing to maximize, if they do, let's say, I mean, obviously, that's what we're going to be doing right now, right? We have to speculate. We have to say, well, what if they are going to race, Molten Core World First, or whatever it is they end up planning? What is their leveling going to be? What is their raid prep going to be? What will we get to see now that the expectation is, well, we're Method. We're going to stream almost everything. We'll have raiders that stream our split raids in their off time. And when we're doing progression, we're going to be streaming it on the Method channel and, potentially some other supporter down the line. It's not going to be Red Bull, but, maybe something else. I'm really interested to see what the five heads behind Method can do at, really theory crafting. All right, this classic, this vanilla stuff has been out there for a while. People have been theory crafting on private servers for a while. Let's put all this information together and see how we can really get a world first in Classic. If they do go all out with Classic, I'm going to be really impressed.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be like the full extent of their raid team, right? I mean, I'm sure their preparation has already gone in for the next raid tier, but I know from listening to other podcasts, there are guilds out there planning the world first rag kill that are practicing leveling on private servers, and just something to keep in mind. I think in vanilla WoW, the fastest level 60 level time was over 4 days /played. So I mean, your time management really has to be well. And, for me, the game releases on a Monday night. So, I mean, you're looking at maybe the weekend, probably Sunday. You have enough level 60 players, not even geared players, just enough level 60 players to step into that raid. I mean, that's 40 people that have to get keyed, leveled, and keyed to get inside. And it's definitely not going to be an easy task to complete.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit earlier. In one of our earlier episodes, we've mentioned, what it takes to get attuned, what you would need to do with your character to get there. But, I mean, the guys at Method just know how to min-max everything. So if they do decide to do the same kind of... If they take the same approach to Classic that they take with the World First races in retail, it's going to be crazy to see. What else would you expect from them, Saad? If they don't try to do like a world first race for Ragnaros, what else would that tweet be about?
I think that would be it. I think that there is probably a team with the Method tag or a classic guild that's been formed that is going to have a lot of high-level players on it that are looking to push Classic. I'm sure some of the players that are on Method's main raid team now are going to be playing, but I don't know how much they'll be focusing on Classic outside of like maybe a week 1 or week 2 rag, right? I mean, because their next raid tier in retail WoW is important, and they're going to start running splits through Mythic Eternal Palace as soon as they can. So I would expect there's probably maybe another team that they sponsored or another guild on a private server that they're sponsoring. But I mean, that's all speculation. I could be totally wrong. I would expect to see some familiar faces that you see streaming that are going for that world first rag kill. And I'm also looking forward to seeing it be streamed and casted by veteran players and other well-known people in the community.
Yeah, I'm pulling up right here the video of the kill. I'm gonna rewatch the full stream of it. You were lucky enough and wise enough to get on board and watch that stream right after I think they got that 0.9% wipe, or at least when that was their prog point. That is got to be such like an incredibly tense moment to be there. At least for Method at that point in a race, they're kind of alone. I think Limit was still asleep, and they were at 12.9% when they logged off, which was still behind Method. So Method was ahead. They got more progression. They got more progression while Limit was sleeping, and then boom, obviously they finally get it in. I'm really excited to go back and rewatch that. I'm crazy excited to see if they have something they can do in Classic. If any guild could do it, it would be Method. But the one thing that I find different about retail and Classic is something that you mentioned. It's just the time required. With so few people, that was one of the other differences between Limit and Method. Limit, their raiders are playing 1, maybe 2 characters, while Method, they have 6 or 7 per player. You don't have that kind of time in a world first race to have that many characters. So how Limit deals with it, they have a larger roster of players and they have more people available. That approach is definitely going to fit better into a Classic world first race than the current kind of Method approach. But I'm sure Method will have no problem attracting and recruiting the best raiders that they can to fill out that roster for Classic.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have a job, I'd definitely like to participate. Don't know if I'd be good enough, but...
And these guilds have the kind of pull where they can recruit people who know that they're there just to get BOEs and trade those BOEs over. They will never get to keep a single BOE. They'll never get to raid. They'll never become glorified Method members, but they will always be there, in split raids, funneling gear, sending BOEs. And these... this tier of guild has enough fanboys that they can run off of that. No problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like even in retail WoW, right? Like, it's not like, I mean, I'm sure they get applications from other players, but really, when they recruit people, it's other, maybe not known in the streamer community or in the WoW community in general, but they're well-known, they're practiced players that are probably top 10, top 20 raiders that are joining their guild, right? It's not like they're recruiting like guys like you or me that purple and orange parse on every fight in Heroic. They're getting, other well-practiced players that play multiple characters and, can meet their time requirement and their high skill cap.
Yeah, that's the duo of those two things. It's not just the skill, it's also a time available. If you don't have the time available, you're just not going to be as useful. There is no debating the time sink element to a lot of these games. In any RPG game, there is a time sink element to character improvement. And with WoW, it is one of the tightest things to your character's progression. It will be time. You'll see it. If you spend more time on your character, as long as you're not just flying and running laps around your capital, you will be progressing.
Yeah, the only thing I really dislike about it right now is just the current state that WoW is in. It's really, impossible for, a player like me, to maintain more than one raid-ready character because of the AP grind, the emissaries, just the whole 9 yards, the essences that you have to farm on more than one character. I'm barely farming essences on one, let alone two, and I like to play more than one character, and I wish that it was a little more alt friendly, and it really it really bothers me that they've gotten away from that, and I think maybe, hopefully, I understand why they have AP in the game, but as an artificial sort of, never-ending character progression, it is terrible for players who don't play the game every day or can't. It's terrible for them to try to maintain both characters at a raid-ready rate, right? Like, I'd like to raid on 2 characters and potentially have, maybe an off-spec one that can perform a different role or a different class that has an immunity that can soak something on a fight that would be specific to that. I like to be versatile, and it's hard for me to do that, and I wish and I hope that Blizzard would make that more friendly. And I'm sure those World First Raiders would like it too, because they're playing multiple characters, and it would certainly make their job a lot easier.
We'll see how practical that ends up being when the time comes. The nice thing, we don't have to wait that much longer. We're going to see what they end up doing in less than 30 days, because Classic is going to be out in less than 30 days. One of the nicest parts about being an S-Fan follower is every day, at least recently, he's had a countdown in his title on how many days left until Classic. And we're down below 30. We're getting really close.
Yeah, it's coming, and in a way, I'm a little upset that I like retail a lot right now. There's still a lot of problems with it, and I've mentioned them. But now I think I'll be playing Classic a lot more casually than I was initially planning. I still do plan on raiding, but I would expect it to take me several months to get to endgame in Classic, which is sad, but that's the nature of it. It's coming. I love launch events. I mean, there's nothing better than a WoW launch event, right? I think everybody can agree on that.
Yeah, and WoW Classic launch is going to be arguably one of the most massive launches they've ever had. It's got all of the hype of WoW Classic with the history and none of the baggage. I mean, people are expecting to get the Classic experience. I'm expecting a massive, massive launch.
Yeah, and I'll be there for it. I'm sure you will be. It's going to be awesome. My only fear is that I'll roll a character on a server that's going to be dead in 2 months. That is my biggest fear.
Yep. Yeah, we'll have to do some research and figure out which servers are actually worth getting into. That's something that, will matter to an extent that it never has mattered on retail.
Well, not in a long time, right? I mean, they've had servers or sharding going on for years, and it's still a system that I think is terrible and flawed. And we'll see. I'm looking forward to having like a little sub-community built in your server that has its own drama. I think drama makes the game more interesting, no matter how much people love it or hate it. Can't go wrong with a little drama.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Barrens Chat podcast. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us talk about World of Warcraft. If you've got any comments or questions, contact us at baronschatpod@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter at baronschatpod.